Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to SehoPod. This is episode 16. This is a long-awaited episode because for 5 months now, or 5 months ago, my friend here was supposed to be on this podcast. It didn't happen, but now we're back. Introducing Cole Conway.
Hello.
How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, man. Cole and I are feeling a bit low energy right now because of final exams and only having, well, you have one left, right?
Yeah, I have one left. So do you.
We both have one left.
Yep.
I'm in a situation where I should be studying diligently, but I feel checked out, but I have a very hard exam. You, on the other hand, have a not so hard exam.
Still should be studying.
Still should be studying,
I
but
not, though.
Don't want to do that.
Nope, you're not.
And that's all right. Cole, I met you last semester in our
Dr. Voss.
Yes, Dr.
Hebrew
Daniel
Bible.
Voss, the Hebrew Bible class.
Actually, no. Well, yes, you were in my class, but you know when we met?
No.
48 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
because that's
Yes,
so true.
48 hours.
Because you were in my class, but we hadn't met each other.
Nope.
And then it was at 48 hours. You were like, oh, we're in the same class. And then you knew Sahaj.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yep.
was like, oh, blah, 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 Sahaj. And you thought Sahaj played in MLS All-Stars or something like that.
No, don't say that.
And then
Okay, I said I was led to believe by Sahaj that he played in an MLS Next team
Okay.
when he was in high school. Little did I know that Seho and him were really good friends in high school, and
So
he did not play in
So
that.
you told me that, and I was like, are you sure? Are you sure Sahaj? I was like, I don't.
Is that the same Sahaj?
Yeah, I was like, I don't think
I'm
Sahaj
like,
did
yeah,
that.
I'm like, Sahaj. Like, there's not that many other Sahajas.
I was like, I don't think Sahaj did that. And then I texted Sahaj during the retreat. Right after you told me that, and he was like, no, he got it wrong. And I was like, all right.
I got it wrong. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
That was
Dude, that was when your hair was very short.
Yep.
Because you didn't grow out your hair till this summer, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's short, spiky hair, everyone says.
For a long time. Yeah, but, I mean, your hair looks great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Gave it a shot.
That's how Cole and I met. We came closer over the semester.
Yeah.
And then the 5 months ago we're referring to was when we were at Cole's house at the Cape.
Yes, sir.
Which was a fun time. And then
So much fun.
Now we're back here. End of our first semester of sophomore year. How do you feel, man?
I'm feeling drained. I feel like it's just a lot of motion this semester.
Yeah.
A lot of events, people, a lot of things, like more responsibilities than I intended.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a lot, but it's been very good.
Yeah.
It comes in highs and lows.
Yeah. What
But-
have been the highs and lows?
I've really loved being part of Start at Shea, which is the entrepreneur club on campus. It's been fantastic. We basically run all the events on campus for anything entrepreneurial related, or we also bring speakers that are like CFOs or entrepreneurs themselves to come to campus and speak to our student body. So we facilitate those events along with a lot of different events for students who are entrepreneurs on campus currently. So we have an accelerator program for businesses that want to start up a company, and we give them $1,500 of equity-free funding, and a lot of different events like that. And that's been really fun because I've gotten really close with all my sophomore friends that are on it. Shout out Caroline, Maggie, Morgan, Issa, Kyle, and it's just a great group of people. And so I would say that I'm really happy to have gotten closer to them, and then also gotten closer to the board, and having a sense of responsibility on campus is cool, because then you're I'm truly part of the Boston College community because I'm contributing and you can physically see my contribution. So I've really loved just being a part of that, and also the amount of people I'm exposed to, the interesting thoughts. I've talked to a couple CEOs now that have both one has started up a company when I was the CEO of a smaller tech company, and that was just super interesting to see their points of views. Talked to a couple people who are this guy named Trent Tully, who literally created his own business called Venue. He just quit his job and now he lives in Florida now. He actually moved from Boston to Texas, not Florida, Texas, just to pursue his company called Venue, and he's now partnered with Joe Rogan. He was a student here 2 years ago. He comes every year back, And like now I'm just hearing crazy life updates from his, and he's like hilarious, dude. Can just talk about anything to anyone.
Yeah.
His whole app is like to create like a social networking app for like events on campus or like for clubs. So like say everyone here has this app called Venue. You can be like, oh, where are people going tonight? You can post like what's going on. And then people will commit or not commit. So you can see like who's going or not. So like people like say like they go to like
Okay.
Circle Tavern and they're like, oh, I'm
Sure.
going to Circle Tavern tonight. They post up on their like the website, and then you can see who's like said that like Sahaj is going, Seho's going, Izzy's going, I'm going, like Faith's going. It would be like you could see and scroll through.
Got
So
it.
that would be super interesting. Like
Yeah,
that's the whole
yeah.
basis of the app, and like he's basically like been pursuing that for the last like 2 years. Now he just quit his job, and like it's super cool to hear like, oh, like why did you quit your marketing job to now pursue this full time?
Mm-hmm. That is very cool.
So,
So you said he
yeah.
was a student 2 years ago?
He was a student. He's a BC student alum. He was a student 2 years ago. Graduated 2022 or 23, I think.
Uh-huh.
Good kid.
Yeah. Dang, a lot can happen in a year and a
So
half.
much can happen in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And look at us now.
Look at us now. Yeah. Speaking of which, I always tend to ask this question, which is, how did you end up at Boston College?
It's kind of a long-winded one. So a lot of my family's gone to BC, but not in like the same way that I think most people say that. Like most people are like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to go to BC because all my family's gone to BC. I would say that a lot of my family's gone to BC, so I really didn't want to go to BC. And it's like my mom went for a master's, my dad went as an undergrad, my uncle went as an undergrad, my other uncle went as an undergrad, my other uncle went as an undergrad, my other aunt went as an undergrad, my aunt went as an undergrad, my grandfather went as an undergrad. So like I have like all of my mom's side is BC and then half of my dad's side is BC.
That's crazy.
And it's just happened to be that like we've always been going. And I've lived in Boston almost my entire life. I grew up in Jersey for a little bit, but then I moved here. And I've like gone to games since I was a kid, then like hadn't gone since I was like 8, pretty much, because my grandfather had died, and like that was his thing. Like he went here as a commuter. He grew up in Wellesley and then commuted to college. When BC was a commuter school.
Yeah.
And so he like had so much pride in the school and like where it had gone from being like a 50% acceptance rate to now at 15, and like the programs now are wonderful here. So I've always been exposed to BC, but I never really wanted to go. I actually thought I wanted to go when I was a kid to Stanford. And then I was like, when I applied and went towards schools, I wanted to go to Vanderbilt. I ED'd there and got rejected. And I was like, last second was like, I'll go on a tour at BC. And I took it on a tour at BC. And it was the only school that like genuinely connected with me. I like think the actual Jesuit values, like I'd toured like a couple other like Catholic schools before. I toured like Villanova. But like I wasn't like super enthralled when I went. But like
when that sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When that feeling hit you of like that you resonated with BC genuinely,
Mhm.
was there like a tension in your heart being like, this is great, but shoot, like all this time I wanted to be different, but now I'm gonna
no, that's
maybe-
exactly it.
Okay.
No, it was like I'm staying right close to home, and my entire family went here.
Yeah.
Like that's not at all what I wanted to do. I wanted to
Yeah.
leave my family, and I wanted to like make my own path.
Yeah. It's not like you came here, toured, and then felt a genuine connection and like completely were like Mom, I'm going to BC, like I love it, I'm gonna
No.
be yeah.
No, I did it, and then I like honestly, I'm gonna say this. It was probably not a good idea, but I ED2'd out of fear. I mean, I liked the school. I loved it a lot. It's the only school that I really enjoyed, and I was like,
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna get in. Like all my family went here. Like it would be like almost impossible for me not to get in. Like, and I like genuinely enjoyed the tour. So like, screw it, LAD. I'm done with this.
Mhm.
I got in, and I was like the entire time super nervous and made the wrong decision. Like all the way up to like going to school, and like I went on like the orientation, and I hated orientation. I was like, I'm
What?
screwed. Yeah, I was like, I'm screwed because I had the kids I had in orientation. My direct roommate was not a good guy. It was like weird stories he would tell me, and I'm like, you should probably not treat women like that. So
Dang.
just like events, and I was like, oh, this is freaky. So I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And then I got to school, and I was put on Newton campus, and nothing wrong with Newton, but like that's like another like separate like, oh, now I'm like even like more removed from the school,
Yeah.
not even at the school. So then I went through my first semester, and all of my friends left Boston, and I stayed in Boston, and so I kind of felt like disconnected, and I just like hadn't met the right people. I hadn't made friends in like 5 years. So I'm like, shoot, I got to make friends now. And that was difficult, just like coming around, like learning how to, because I'm like naturally introverted, but I really like talking to people. Like I like connecting with people. So I've like forced myself the last like 2 years to become super social, which I love. But like in my heart of hearts, I would just watch a movie. So like,
Yeah.
so like it's been like I have a whole process of like getting to learn like how to speak to people and like how to connect and like how to start a conversation when there's nothing to talk about.
Sure.
So like that whole story like took all of the first semester, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and that didn't work out very well. We had been dating for 2.5 years, and she just stopped communicating with me. So like that hurt because like I knew we were gonna break up. And it's like the entire semester just felt like a long like breakup. And then I just like was like, oh, I'm too close to home. All my friends are gone. I don't even have that many friends here. Like I don't feel the connection. I don't feel the love. So I thought that maybe I'll apply to transfer. So I put in a couple applications. I put in 5. I applied to Vanderbilt, UNC, UVA, Georgetown, and Tulane. And
So you could have you were able to apply Vandy again.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got into Vandy.
Yeah.
I got into all 5. I got waitlisted actually at Georgetown, but I would have gotten off the waitlist. But that was where I was at, and I had applied, and then I was just like, all right, that was my winter break. I come back to school, and like, screw it. I'm going to not think about, like, whatever happens, happens. Like,
Yeah.
if I get in, if I don't get in, like, I can decide what I want to do. So I got back to school, and I was like, I want to make this the best semester possible. I want to get over my ex. I want to, like, meet new people. I want to work on the things that I found when I was reflecting on over my applications and over the semester, like, what was going wrong. So I realized that, like, I felt like I hadn't explored Boston, or I knew Boston too well. And I was like, but there's so much more to explore. I want to go into Boston more. I realized that like I just hadn't really felt like I'd met the right people, and I hadn't felt like I disassociated from my family a lot. And I realized like I needed some more independence. So I was like, I need to get a car on campus to go do my allergy appointments I have to do each week where I see my mom. So I like got a car on campus. I joined a couple new clubs, and I was like, we're going to make this great. So I just started talking to more people, just going out of my way to like push myself out of my comfort zone and talk to people, and I ended up loving it. I mean, I met wonderful individuals like you. Even like we just talked how we met. Literally 48 hours was a retreat for freshmen. Fantastic. Like meet one good kid on any event you do, your life is 10 times better in my opinion. And like, why not try to make new friends? So I joined Freshman League. I now have 2 really, really good friends of mine from Freshman League that I love, and like they help turn around. And then, excuse me. And then I also have just a lot of like friends I met around campus. And I ended up seeing someone at the time, it was Izzy, and like she introduced me to a lot of wonderful people on campus. And like I got seen the side of like the side of BC that I hadn't been introduced to a lot. And like I ended up meeting like you much closer, ended up developing a much stronger connection to Sahaj, ended up meeting like all of his roommates like better. I know like Jonas, Bobby, like Seth, like everyone that I'm like now very happy and like close friends with. I like realized it's just is like one separation away from everyone.
Yeah.
And so once I started like connecting with people more and really finding my place on campus, I ended up landing the job at Shea in like the end of my spring. I was like, man, I love this school. I want to stay. Like, why wouldn't I not want it? Like I had Mermon, and I had the best time ever. And I like just bounced around between friend groups and like people, and like I still wasn't solidified in who I am and like where I want to be. But then like once I realized that I don't like have to portray a fake version of myself to make friends, and like genuinely just like have to be yourself and be positive. And that was like something I lacked first semester. Like I just ended up connecting with a lot of people, and I was like, all right, here we are. I love this place. I am myself here. I like genuinely am myself, and I have a lot of genuinely good people surrounding me. And like, why wouldn't I want to leave? So I ended up staying, and that's how I'm here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
So that's a little long-winded, but
yeah. No, I was actually going to ask you about the transferring and like thinking about that.
Yeah.
But you already went there.
Well, I mean, that comes like why I stayed almost like.
Yeah. No. Tell me more. Thanks for sharing all that.
Of course.
That was awesome. Tell me more about like the timeline of like how gradual, or like you said there was or maybe there wasn't, but you made it seem like there was a moment when you were like, oh, like I'm gonna stay here. Or tell me about like kind of the process, or if there were certain checkpoints where you were more and more convinced of your conviction to stay at BC.
I wouldn't say it was like a specific moment that caught me by surprise, and I was like, wow, I want to be here. I think it was a progression of series of events. I think it started honestly with freshman league.
Yeah.
And just I was, thank God, put in a fantastic group of people.
Yeah.
Everyone there was wonderful. My lead still texts us. Like, he's a fantastic guy. His name is Stephen Harrison.
Awesome.
And I met Maddie and Luke through them, and I'm really, really good friends with them. And I was very, very happy to have been able to like meet them. And so just like starting off my year with a new group of people, generally good group of people, and just like talking. And I am one where like I like to deeply connect with people, and like just like being put in a space like freshman league or stride where like you have to. I like love that. So I thought that like that was just something I needed and missed, because like I feel like I hadn't reached that level with anyone of my friends like first semester.
Right.
So I enjoyed that, and it started off with that. And like our retreat was like the first weekend back, and that was fun. And then the semester goes on, and like I got to know them a bit better, which was good. And I developed a really close friendship with my friend Marcelo, which you know Marcelo.
Yeah.
So and he helped me through a lot of like what I was working through with my ex at the time. And also I started journaling, and like I really enjoyed just like the process of like putting out my feelings into like paper and realizing like what I want to do in the reflective aspect of my own life, and realize like, oh, I need to be like more positive. I need to get to know like this, that, like go to the gym like this time. Like it was just giving myself goals and standards to meet. And I just loved doing that, which then like progressed me to like, okay, I now like am seeing myself get a more healthy mindset like over the course of the semester. So like that was freshman league to like benefits. And then I went on spring break and visited my friend from home, and that was nice because like I was able to like connect with someone who I'd deeply connected with already, and like meet all of his friends on campus where he goes to school in England. So I was there, which was really cool. I loved that, and like now I have a couple of close friends that are now in England, which is crazy.
That's it.
Yeah, like one of my friends, Johnny, just texted me the other day, and he was like, "Happy birthday, Cole." I'm like, "Hey, Johnny, so you should come back to the Cape." He was there too. He literally lives in England. He came to the Cape.
That's
awesome
sick,
that is.
dude.
So it was like that happened, and I was like, "This was super fun." And then I was like, "I'm learning to like actually start like being myself," and like I genuinely like was like, "I'm just gonna start dancing on campus." Like, put in headphones, like. I used to be like, when I came to college, my mindset was I don't want to wear headphones. I want to talk to as many people, know people. It's like try to be as social as possible. Right. So I know myself, and like I'm not going to do that unless I try.
Yeah.
And then I realized like if I'm constantly uncomfortable, I'm never going to be able to connect with anyone. So I realized like I need to find ways to like de-stress and like put myself, like ground myself almost. And I was like, I always loved music. I play the piano. I like am fascinated by music. And I was like, I'm just going to put in headphones and I'm just going to dance. And so I've like always now, like since last semester, just like between classes or having a good day, just like danced. Like,
Yeah.
walk between like down the quad.
That is something you do?
And I'm sure you've noticed because I do it all the time, like all the time, every day. And it just like grounded me. There's like small moments like that. And then I like in spring break, I was like, I am becoming more myself. I love this.
Yeah.
And then that like end of break, I'd met Izzy and like started talking to her, which was fun. And then through her, I met a lot of different people, and like that also helped me solidify, and like it gave me like almost like a grounding on campus.
Yeah.
It was like it just gave me someone just like who was like in my corner when I needed someone in my corner.
Yeah.
And that was nice. And I ended up realizing like there's so much more to BC that I haven't found. And like there's a certain like way of like you don't have to put yourself through hell if you don't need to. Like there's ways to make fun, like life things that aren't fun. Like studying can be fun as long as you like make it fun. So like just like doing booth in the library can be fun. Like things, small things like that. Like I just like hadn't learned. I picked up a lot of things from her, which is nice. And so like as the semester went on, I like got more and more grounded, and I was like, I have a lot of friends on campus, and a lot of them are really good people. And I just landed the Shea job at the end of it, and like that was, I think, if I had any moment like in my head, I was like, if I get this job, I'm gonna stay. And I got it. It was 4-round interview. I had to do an application and 3 interviews. And I got through the 3rd interview, and I was like, I really hope I get this. I get a FaceTime call from my friend Chris, who's a senior now. He's one of the leads. He's like one of the presidents. He FaceTimed me. He's like, Cole, I'm so sorry to say this. Would you ever go to all the events for Shea? Like, would you still come to all these events? And I'm like, yeah, I'd go to the events. He's like, good, because now you have to go to the events. I was like, oh my God, I got it. So he told me it. I lost my mind. I was literally holding coffee. I remember this vividly. I was in the chocolate bar with a cup of coffee in my hand and a backpack, like, and it was like week before finals. Nobody's there. Like, it was a Saturday morning, like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm running down the quad with my cup of coffee. I spilled all over my hand, by the way, like all the way down my arm. And like, it was kind of warm outside, so like it was fine. Didn't get on my clothes. I pull up and my arm's stained with coffee. I put down the coffee. I just hug them because I know exactly where they were. They were in the shade room or the shroom.
Yeah.
And I like immediately I walked into the shade room. I was like, "Where is everyone?" And they're like, "In the back." So I went out to the back and I went to everyone like that like interviewed me. And I was like, "Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited." Like everything about it, I was like so giddy. And they turned to me and they're like, "We knew we had to take you." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." It's like, "We knew we had to take you when I saw you dancing before your interview with headphones on, full blast, like directly before the interview."
Yeah.
And like they walked in on me while I was doing it, and I was like, "Oh shoot!" They caught me, and they're like, "That's how we knew." And I was like, "That's how you knew?" I was like, "That's how you knew."
Dang, dude. I didn't expect those two stories to.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What's the life lesson from that, Cole?
I think it's like be yourself. I think like the biggest things I've learned over the last like 12 months, like year, I think that's been one of the most impactful 12 months of my life. It's probably just like be always yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. If someone doesn't like you, so what? Like, you don't have to connect with everyone. And that's something I didn't realize is like I see these friend groups that form around my dorm and like on my floor, and I realized like I shouldn't force something that's not going to be there. You know what I mean? I kept forcing myself in the groups like we're all right, and like I was like surrounding myself with just a group that was like I knew they'd be like my friends, but like I just didn't love or like they didn't love me in the same way and like supported me in the same way that I needed. And I was like, well, it's just like take that step and be okay with it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like be yourself. Don't be afraid to like do that and like genuinely just like step outside your comfort zone and be like, okay, if I leave these people, I can find someone else.
Yeah.
So that was that. Definitely do reflective piecing. Like journaling was a big portion of that.
Yeah.
Helps me get over my ex, helped me like put in perspective what I wanted to do, how I wanted to like better my mentality, be more positive. And then really connect with the people that you really connect with. Like just try to spend like support, give as much love as you can to people that make you happy. And then even if like they don't have a lot to give, just keep giving. And like even if it doesn't work out, just keep giving. Like I think that people are put in your life for a reason, and I think as long as you are treating them with respect and care and they help you in some way, then you should always treat them well. So I'd say always just like be positive towards that.
Yeah. Speaking on reflective, tell me more, and you had just talked about it, tell me more about journaling. Like what led you to start? Was there like anything or anyone that inspired you?
So I've had issues with my mental health since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Just like my parents divorced, and ever since it's been like a whole issue. And my mom has always been like, you should journal. And I was always like, no, why would I journal? And so I always got nagged at that. When I went to therapy my senior year of high school, my doctor, or at the time, like my therapist had like pushed me to journal, and I'm a stubborn person. I said no again. So I was like, no, I won't do that. Until eventually, like, I got to a point where I had like the worst semester. Like my mental health was terrible in like November of last year, like a year ago.
Yeah.
And my mom sat me down and was like, we need to do something about this. I'm like, that's fair. And she's like, I don't know what it is, but like we got to do something, like reach out to someone or something like that. And I just kind of pushed her off. And like I came back from school, and I blamed it on basically just like my like experience like being at BC and like wanting to apply somewhere else, which was a little bit of a scapegoat now that I reflect back, but it was needed. And so eventually I like had broken up with my girlfriend, and I was like, I need to write about it. Like, and my mom kept pushing me over the past couple of years to write and journal. So I was like, I'll pick up a journal. I had a journal that I bought probably 5 or 6 years back, because one of my best friends from home, Dylan, he's journaled since he was like 7, and he has like stacks and stacks of them in his room. And he's probably the most intelligent kid I've ever met in my life, genuinely. And he's just always had them. So I was like, I should probably like, I don't know, use them as a phronimos and like maybe pick up journaling. So I picked up journaling, and like my mom kept telling me to journal. I journaled. So I picked up a journal, and I used to write about things that it's like scientifically proven. If you write about things you're grateful for each day, you'll look for things that you're grateful for each day, and it's like your life will just be 10 times be better. So I always would write about what happened in my day for like a full page, sometimes 2 pages. And then I'd write 3 things I'm grateful for. And then starting in the summer, I started writing 3 goals of mine I wanted to do. So like 3 things that like either is momentary or far on and it could change day to day. But just like things that I want to remind myself to do each day. And usually I've had the same one since I started journaling. It's be positive. It's usually number 1 on the list. And that was why I started journaling. And I think it's one of the best things I've done. I've recently fallen off because it's a hard thing to keep doing. But I picked it up a couple days ago, which has gotten good. And I've gone through about a book and a half since I started. So let's hope he just keeps going. And second part is one of my friends, my mentor for Shay, one of the best people ever, I forgot to mention this. He's another reason why I stayed on BC, is he kept pushing me to journal because he's a big journaler too. And he's a kid named Luke Kolbeck. And I missed him all this semester because he's abroad now. But great, wonderful friend of mine. And he pushed me like, he was my rock, like the only person I really had like a really close friend with since like I got to school. And he's a sophomore, he's not a junior, so he's a year ahead of us. And he's just always pushed me to journal, so that was another reason why I journaled.
That's awesome. That's really cool. You were talking about reflection while we cut for a second. You were talking about reflection with journaling, but also that you haven't done like a deeper conversation like this in a while. Do you like, I guess, what is stopping you from having conversations like this more often?
I mean, it's not like anything crazy. It's just probably my schedule currently.
Yeah.
I've just been really busy, really, really busy, just like with events and people and like networking and trying to get a job on top of doing well in school and on top of Shay. And I wouldn't say like I don't have these deep conversations. I just feel like I haven't like sat down and like been like, this is going to be a deep conversation.
Right.
Usually those are facilitated events like through events like on campus, like Freshman League or Stride. And I was in Stride this year, but I think I mentioned before, we just didn't like connect as well. It was me and like 2 other guys and 7 other girls, and my lead I'm good friends with, but the rest I just, no hate towards them, just like they're going through a lot of different events than I am, and whenever I'd share something I'm going through, it would just be a very, very different like experience.
Yeah.
Like I think part of it was like a lot of them are there to try to make new friends and like try to expand their circle, which I'm there too, but like a lot of them are discussing how like sometimes like, oh, I just like sit at home and don't do anything, and it's hard for me to relate to that sometimes because I have like this anxiety where like I have to talk to people.
Right.
So like it's just like the experiences are different, and it's not a bad way to live, and I'm not throwing any shade. I'm just saying like it's very hard to connect when like you don't have any common ground.
Yeah, totally.
So like I just didn't have any common ground with them except for like a mentor. But like unfortunately I couldn't go each week. The weeks got busier, and so I ended up just like deciding I need to cut something out of my life because I didn't have time to train for my half marathons, do all the stuff I want to do for Shay, to do well in school, to still keep up with all my friends that I want to connect with. And I had to drop something, so that fell out, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that like I do facilitate events like that aren't like straight events, like conversations at least. Like I've had a lot of like close conversations. Mostly it's around relationship stuff, which like it's good, but like I'm kind of exhausted of it. It's a mental part of my mind. I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like having those conversations are good, but like I enjoy like having deep conversations outside of just like your social, like your relationship life.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's like the easiest thing for people to connect on. But then at the same time, I feel like there's so much more to like spiritually and like emotionally connect on that are beyond just like who you're going out with. And like I've missed that for a while.
Yeah.
So like that's something I hope to do more, actually, now that you bring it up.
Yeah. Good. I would encourage you to do more of it as well.
Yeah.
One thing I was curious about was and if you can be free or not, if you don't want to talk about it at school too, but I thought the fact that you went to therapy your senior year of high school was, just an experience maybe worth talking about. Would you be open to talking about it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Was it like going into it, how much of it was you deciding to do it versus like you kind of more having to do it, like someone said you have to do it?
Well, that goes back to my junior year. My junior year was not a good time for me. Um, it was coming out of COVID, like it was still COVID-ish, which was weird. And my mom developed breast cancer on top of tearing her Achilles. So she had just healed from her Achilles, and then, or actually was in the process of healing from her Achilles. She
Yeah.
tore her Achilles, and she got diagnosed with breast cancer. And then on top of that, I was the captain of my swim team, which I loved, but a lot of the seniors were kind of pissed at me because I got it as a junior over them as seniors, and so there was a couple of seniors that like I was friends with that like stopped being friends with me or
Dang.
would like sit down to like literally this kid. His name is David. He sat down my best friend from home, Lloyd, who he had no idea I'm best friends with because he knew him from track. And this was like the second week of school, like junior year, and he was like, JC, he spent an hour just shit talking me to my best friend. And the funniest thing is like, I've never done anything wrong with this kid before. And he's a good kid too. And I was like, I don't know why he did it. And he was just ranting like, oh, I should have gotten captain. This kid doesn't deserve it and whatnot. And knowing Lloyd, he just ate it up. It was like, yeah, he just kept feeding him like the stick more and more, which is really funny. And so at the end of it, he just called me. He was like, dude, this kid's not like you. I'm like, yeah. It was just like, I got a lot of pushback on that. So like, it was a lot of responsibility and then pushback for being a captain on top of my mom had breast cancer and she tore her Achilles. So that was not good. And then I also was so stressed out from college and college tours and all that that like I was just like really, really stressed all the time. And my skin started to break out a lot. I had really, really bad acne in high school. And so I was on a lot of medication for that. And like that just combination of it just led me to like not like myself. And I've always had not great mental images of myself. And like I just I don't for some reason found myself attractive. And so that was something I just like had issues with. And I was dating a girl at the time and like I kind of put a lot of pressure on her now that I look back and I feel kind of bad about that. So it was just like a lot of weight, and it was a summer period after junior year ended, like the summer between junior and senior year, where I just like didn't talk to any of my friends. I just stayed in my house. I didn't like want to see anyone. I barely saw my girlfriend. I genuinely like quit my sport, swimming, which I had never done before, and like I didn't quit it. I just like took a break. I came back to it, but like my coach was so confused, and I was a super passionate swimmer. I would just go to practice every day. I'd do double practices. I had like 8 practices a week. Like I loved the sport, and I just burned out, and like I couldn't do it, and like I was like, chlorine's ruining my skin. That was the reason it was not. But like I had issues there, and like there's one point where I was just sitting on the stairs, and I just started crying, and like I had no idea why, and I just broke down. My mom came up to me, and I was like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I can't even put it into words. It's like it's so vain that I can't even put it to words. And I eventually told her like everything that was going on. And it was not even like it was just all of the pressure built to, like towards my own mental image of myself. And I just realizing that like I need to reach out to someone because I hadn't told anyone. And like people noticed I was kind of like backing away, but like no one like called me out yet. So my mom like sat me down and called me out and was like, "You gotta talk to someone." So I started talking to her, and then I started talking to a couple of my friends who'd gone through similar experiences. A couple of my friends were on hockey team at the moment, so I talked to them for a bit, and they've had their own bouts of depression they dealt with. So I talked to them about that, and they convinced me to go to therapy. So that's how I started therapy, and then I worked with this guy, Dr. Andrews, for probably a year, starting like September until June of my senior year, and that was why I started, and it was good.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that, dude.
Yeah. Part of my past. Kind of
yeah.
forgot about it.
Yeah. During it, how influential do you think it was to go through that experience of therapy?
It was good and bad. I think it like gave me a lot of like coping mechanisms. I mean, that's part of the reason why like daily affirmations I do.
Yeah.
There was a couple like tips and tricks he gave me that do genuinely help me a lot.
Yeah.
But I would say like I probably would have gained more out of it if I put more into it,
Right.
which would have been nice.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think it was like helpful and not helpful at the same time. Like it gave me a space to connect with someone and talk to someone, but at the same time, like sometimes there was like a wall. And like I have a tough time sometimes like explaining how or why I feel a certain way. I'm very good at explaining how like what I feel. I don't know why most of the time. So it's hard to communicate to to someone when I don't really know what's going on internally. So
Yeah.
like that is something I've like always found an issue with. And it's like I feel like it could go either way. I've thought about doing it again recently. I think it'd be interesting just to like talk to someone,
Yeah.
but I haven't gotten around to it.
Through all of those just negative experiences junior and senior year, could you pinpoint a something or a reason that like kept you together, that kept you like looking forward to each day?
I did not look forward to each day a lot. I always had something I liked though, which is good. In high school, I loved to swim, and like I loved to compete, and so that was something that pushed me forward. I don't know. I think recently I've like on purposely scheduled out events that like make me happy and like things I want to do. So like I don't know, SehoPod was this. My birthday was last night. Like events like that where like it'll push me to like get to the end. Like always, I think that's something I learned from Izzy to like pick something to look forward to. However, I would not say that I can pinpoint anything in high school that did that to me. I mean, I had a really good girlfriend who was very like emotionally available, like when we were together in high school.
Yeah.
And so that was always someone that like had been in my corner. And then also like I could always just talk to my best friend Lloyd, and he has been and always will be probably the best person I've ever met. And I don't think that's like ever going to be topped. He's just there's something else that he has that no one else has. And like I've grown up with him. He's like my other half. So like having him also helped me support it a lot.
Tell me more about Lloyd. You talk about Lloyd a lot.
I do.
Why is he your best friend? Why is he the greatest person you've met?
I can't pin. It's just it's never been hard. In high school and in elementary school, I lost all my like elementary school friends. And like in middle school, I had to make all my new friends. And like he was the first person I like became really good friends with. And like my friend groups like switched a lot, like in middle school to high school, and he was always there. And like it was me and him. Like we'd always like just make groups together and do things. And a lot of our passions have like over aligned, but like the way we approach, I think that's actually the reason. I think we have a lot of similar passions, but the way we think about them is very differently. Like he's very much a more like I think more of like numerically and like systematically. He thinks more abstractly.
Sure.
But we also both find passion in the same things. Like he loves music. He loves like visual arts. He takes photos. He loves like film. He like every time we talk about philosophy, he finds it fascinating. He loves psychology. Like that's his main thing. And like I've always found an interest in all these things, but like I've always wanted to like do my own like business, which is cool. Which is like currently what I'm doing in college, hopefully one day. But like I think it's just because like we've had like similar passions towards like sports and events, but like through a different like lens that like we always just connect on things, and we like also morally have very similar values, and I think that's like a huge portion of like genuinely good friendships is like people who see and view the same situation as you do, and he's always just been a shoulder to like have. He's like a third brother that I just never had. And I have two wonderful brothers, so it's very cool that I get to have a third. Like it's fantastic. Like literally, my family treats him as another sibling.
Yeah.
Like all my brothers see him, like they like just talk to him, yap to him, whatever. My dad like genuinely like, gives him like gifts and food. like when my mom comes in with him, she always feeds him. like it's just like another sibling.
Yeah.
And like it's just one of those things where like I can call him. I called him yesterday. He texted me. He's like, "When can I call you?" So I called him after I came out of my exam, and we just talked. Like there's like we'd never seen, like we hadn't seen each other in like more than 5 minutes. Like it was just always one of those people where you can just pick up a conversation, and it's like the quality of time I spend with him is unbelievable. So
That's sweet, man. Every person needs a best friend. Seriously. Yeah. Um, Tell me more about your allergy.
Oh
Allergies.
shit! It's another topic.
Plural.
What do you want to know? There's a lot that can be there, so I'm curious.
Let's start with the simple but not so simple question. What are you allergic to?
I'm allergic to dairy, eggs, nuts, and gluten. I've been doing exposure therapy for eggs, so I can have like baked-in eggs right now. However, I'm a little behind on that, but whole other story. But yeah, I'm allergic to dairy, eggs, nuts, and I have celiac. So I'm not allergic to gluten. I just intolerant.
Got it. How has that um affected your life?
Oh, that's great. That's a great statement. So I would say as a kid, there have been moments where it was hard because a lot of this is something like not a lot of people I think have thought of, but I thought of is like people connect over food and with food, especially like oddly enough at a young age. And I was always unable to eat and like hang out and like do that. And one of my best actually friends from home when I was in elementary school was this kid named Eric Aswell who had the same allergies as me. And, like that's why we became such good friends. And then,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we drifted apart because like middle school, we just things happened.
Sure.
He said some things wasn't really happy with. Um, Good kid now though. So like I always found it difficult when I was a kid to like connect to the kids just because like I'd go to a birthday party and then I'd be like the kid who couldn't eat the cake and like in the corner and like they'd bring his own shit. Apologies to the verbal stuff. And so that was odd and like it was just like odd to connect to the kids that way. But like obviously you get around it, you make friends, like you do things. Like it's not crazy. It's just like one of those things where like it's a weird barrier that you like didn't know existed until you have that barrier.
Yeah.
So I would say that affected me. And then also, I would say it's definitely been one of the root causes, if not the root cause of my anxiety. Because, like, I've always been, like, so when I was a kid, not really as much anymore, but like, oh no, what if I eat something I can't have and I, like, just die? So a lot of that, like, would happen. And so, like, it'd be, like, at lunch or, like, I would never trust really adults around to give me food. And, like, that would be a whole separate situation. So, like, you just always had to be careful. So, like, that was another, like, added like worry in the back of your mind. But like as you've grown older, like it's not a huge burden to deal with. It's just like a lot for a little kid.
Yeah.
But like now it's not that big of a deal. Like most people are very like accommodating and accept and like you can always bring your own food or make your own food. It just makes going out a little bit harder because like whenever you go out to eat, like when I was in Italy this summer, there was moments where like I couldn't order food on a menu or like I'd sit there and have like something very small because like I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Or like when I was staying like in Italy with like Izzy's family, like they made me food, and like they had to like basically cater around my food.
Yeah.
Which is just like I always felt like it was kind of a burden whenever I go and visit people because like I don't like want them to make them put more effort in because I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it's unfortunate that like unfortunate it has to happen that way. So like it's just like small things like that that's hard. And then also like when I was a kid, I hated like relying on my parents, and like that was a big thing for me. Was because like they would always do the food allergy stuff. They'd always talk to them. So I used to get like in fights when I was like 12 with my dad. I'd be like, I'm the one to tell the allergies, not you. So there's things like that where it's like you like don't even have your own independence over your own like intake of food.
Right.
So like that was a whole thing. And then like, even when I was in like a different country this summer and like I had to rely on someone else to translate what I needed for food. It's a weird fact because like I had to have Izzy like speak Italian to like the waiter or something because I'd be like, hey, I can't eat this. And he'd be like, what? Yeah, this dead. Like, not good. It's like, it's just like, it's just small things where like, you don't really notice it.
Yeah.
Until you have it. But it's also like, it's very manageable. It's kept me in shape. It's taught me to eat very healthily. So like, I really enjoy like plain, simple foods. I love like vegetables and like fruits and all of that. And so I think I am blessed to have like some, like a mother who can cook very well and like taught me to eat clean. However, there are drawbacks, but it's been alright.
Okay, yeah. Regarding your allergies, like how much do you think that defines who you are or / is a part of your identity?
I mean, my mom would want me to say it's a huge part of my identity. I wouldn't say it is. But I mean, like, she urges me to write my college application on it. Needless to say, when I put in like the application essay,
Yeah.
I got a review back, and they're like, "This is the worst essay I've ever written." So, would not say it's a huge part of my life. I mean, it's like just something I have to think about. And like as a kid, it defined me a lot because I was like always that kid who couldn't eat the food, or like that kid who had asthma and like couldn't like play soccer, or that kid who developed celiac in fourth grade and like had to quit his sports because he had to like go to the bathroom every 30 minutes. So like there were moments
Hey.
when like it was not fun, but like I think my sense of identity is built around how I act and how I treat others, I think.
Yeah.
And like I think life is based around like how you make others feel.
Totally.
And so I would say like my identity is not rooted in like how I eat or like really anything of the sort, because it's not like a cultural connection. It's not like something that I'm connected to a larger group or larger organization. It's just a disease I have. And so like I wouldn't say I would define myself that way, because there's just so much more to me that like is way beyond just whatever I'm allergic to, whatever disability I have.
Totally.
Because that's just, at the end of the day, it's not really anything but just affects the quality of my life. But at the same time, like, that's not who I am.
Yeah. And I can vouch for that as well. Like when I see you, think of you, like, doesn't really cross my mind. So
that's usually the goal.
Yeah.
Like I didn't tell anyone I had allergies for the first 2 months of school. Another point, I didn't want people to know, which also sucked, because then I was like trying to like hide it.
Yeah.
Like again, why would I do that? Like it's like things like that where like I don't know, I dressed super preppy the first month of school. like why did I do that?
How did either the preppy thing or not telling people about allergies, like when did you realize, or how did you realize like what am I doing?
Oh, it was just more like I've never wanted to be defined by my allergies, like to your point. And so I've always tried to like find ways where I just wouldn't have to like mention it, or like mention it subtly.
Yeah.
So like every time I go out to dinner, it's super funny to watch people's faces, because I'll be like, "Excuse me, I'm allergic to dairy, eggs, nuts, and gluten. Can like I would like this please with no butter, and like replace the mashed potatoes with a baked potato. Like that's like a normal meal for me. Like that exact list." And if I've never been out to dinner before, I guarantee you, like 7 out of 8 times, people will laugh. Like every time, it's like clockwork. It's hilarious. So I'm like sitting there. I remember like going out like Nick Moran's birthday party, and I was doing it, and I can't remember if it was like Peter and Nick, and I just started laughing. I was like, "Yep, like that's what I gotta do." But like it was just one of those things where like it used to bother me. Like I was like, you have to know, and like that sucks. But like at the same time, it just comes with like I feel like over the last year and even like 10 years of my life, you become more secure in yourself. And like of my personality traits, I'm more secure in. But like of my food allergies, I've been very secure in that for a while. But like I think the more like you are understanding of who you are and like what makes you core who you are, you then realize that like it shouldn't matter what other people think. And like the more you're secure in your own self, the more you can support others and can support your own self. And so like I think part of that was just being like, yeah, I have allergies. What about it?
Yeah. There you go. I think that's the better way to do it.
Yeah. I try. I think so.
And yeah, that's good for you. That's awesome. It's good to hear that you're not gatekeeping your allergies anymore.
No, gatekeep that shit.
What brings you joy these days? You were talking about it a little bit before.
I love concerts. I love music. That like of like passions of mine, I love to do. So that's always been wonderful to me. Like I went to like 4 concerts this semester, and I loved that. And like every time I go to Faith's concert, I like light up. Like her band is so cool, and so like events like that I always like I love to do. And so like I love doing that. That gives me lots of joy. I would say like working on something that like has a bigger purpose, that like it's like working on Shay, like just even I'm working on the accelerator team, like that I feel like gives me joy. Just like I have a sense of responsibility. I have people who rely on me, and I have friends in it. So like that gives me joy. I think like being someone of like of importance and of like reliance makes me happy, and like that's why I work so hard, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that would be a big portion of it, but also just like connecting with people doing this is super fun. I love that. I mean, I just like random thing. I love playing the piano. I think that's fantastic.
And you're quite good at it.
Thanks you. I'm really excited for that. And then also just I've recently loved art. Something about it, like as of recently, has been fascinating. And even when I got to BC, like one of the first people I ever met at BC was Ashton, because he was in my my stats class, and he first day brings in like a camera and puts it on the table, and I was like, who are you? It's like, I'm Ashton. I'm like, this is awesome. What do you just like? I'm just filming. Like, it's my first day. Like, why wouldn't I? I'm like, yeah, yeah. And so ever since, I've like always like kind of had like, what if I bought a camera? What if I filmed? And like, I love seeing like when Lloyd started getting into photography recently. You are super into photography. I find like it's just fascinating. Like I find like visual arts just fascinating. It's like that's something I want to pursue later. Then also there's another side of me where like I just love like being athletic and doing sports and like lifting and whatnot. I used to swim a lot in high school and I loved competing and that was super fun. Unfortunately, it's like another part of my life now. It's a separate chapter because I ended up retiring from like the club swim team here. Just like didn't fit in my schedule. It was too much of a commitment, and I didn't love the sport anymore. And I transitioned to running, so like I've done like half marathons, which has been fun. And I love just like lifting and like working out with people. I think that's really really fun, and it helps with my mental health a lot. Like whenever I work out, I get such an ego boost. So it's like, yeah, I look good. People want me, you know. Like works towards that self-image section we talked about. So I love doing that. And then also like I love like hearing people's passions and like sharing people's passions. Like I got super into soccer this summer because a lot of my friends love soccer, and I think it's fascinating and I think it's super cool. But like never been like a huge sport of mine, like passion of mine. So like I found that fascinating. I think the photography stuff got me interested in it. Now I'm interested in it, but like that was just hearing what other people like.
Yeah.
I loved going to your like theater event.
Yeah.
I very candidly not a huge fan of theater because my high school theater department was very weird. So, but I love seeing like people I love being fascinated by it. And it's like that astounded me. And like going to your play last semester was so cool because I loved like seeing you on stage. I could see like the joy in your face. And I was like, this is unbelievable. And like, it's just the more I get exposed to things, the more like less bias I have. And like, I just realized like that precognition of theater I had in my head because the theater department in my school was just not fun. Now I was like, that's wrong. Like, there's so much more to like your experience, understanding, even just like one small thing like that like you can just see. And so that's why I love seeing like people's passions, because you see like their viewpoint on like some other topic that's not your own without your bias.
Right.
So like that's super cool. So I love seeing that. My brother is super into lacrosse. I love hearing about him doing that. He's big into lifting, which is fun. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, I love connecting with people. I think that's probably like the biggest drive. That's why I loved swimming when I was younger, because like I was able to like forced yap session for like specific yap section, like in between each set you talk. So like I tell a story for like an entire like practice, and it would take me 2 hours to get through the entire story.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're forced to connect to kids. So I always like doing that.
Yeah.
I it's just like random stuff. Recently I've liked fashion. Fashion's been cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love thrifting recently. It's very fun. I love exploring places. I love just like wandering.
Yeah.
Like I used to like bike around a lot during COVID, and like just exploring stuff was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of rambling.
Yeah. No, it's a good list of things.
Like I guess it's like random stuff. Like I'm sure there's more. I'm always curious.
Dude, you gotta lean more into this creative side of yours, man.
It's hard to find time.
Gotta make time for
I know.
what matters.
I know, that's true. I really want to see if I can like rent a camera. It'd be so cool. I just don't know. Like I need like a plan to do it.
You can buy a camera.
Yeah, but that again, that is bank. Like that. You know, those things not cheap.
Yeah, I've
Like
invested a lot of money into my cameras.
Like there's a reason why I love my digital and I bring it around with me everywhere. But that was $300, and like I love it. Like I literally it's like one of my favorite things ever. I have so many photos I photo dump all the time, and like that's just like a cheap, easy way out of like doing it. But like it's $300. That's crazy. Like I'm sure this camera was, not to put numbers there, but pretty expensive.
Pretty expensive. Yeah, I've invested. I'll say a couple thousand now into my camera gear. So
yeah, exactly. And I think that's something I will do in the future, but currently not. I don't know, because there's like a lot of things I want to do, but a lot, it's like I want to travel a lot. I love visiting places, but that also like requires money, and like, it's just like things you got to work towards in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. What are those things that you're working towards?
I am currently trying to develop my skill set as a person. Like last year was like more social stuff. Currently, I need to get on my grind of like learning how to like professionally network. I think that's a big thing I want to work on. I really want to work on like my health. I need to sleep more and like just set aside time to like genuinely like work out, and like I did a lot of it at the beginning of the semester, but it fell off when school got really hard, and I need that like break and that like repetitiveness
Mm-hmm.
in like in your schedule. It's something I'm working towards too. Always be positive. It's the third thing I'm working towards. Um, then like life goals of mine, I'd like to start a company one day. I think that would be fascinating to do. Another life goal of mine is like just continue playing the piano. Like always picking up new songs. I think that's cool. Like it's something I don't do a lot, and that's why I do the piano ensemble, because it forces me to do it.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of my allergies. I'm trying to work towards that currently, and I just want to like live a life where I do interesting things and I'm surrounded by interesting people. I think I talked to you about that before, but
Yeah.
like I think people who are interesting and like push you to do something you're passionate about are the people to surround yourself with. And whatever pathway leads me down that way, and whatever, like, as long as that guides me, I think I'll be okay.
Good goals. Good future plan.
I also got to grind,
Yeah.
make some money so I can support my future wife and kids.
Tell me about your future wife and kids.
I
How much do you think about your future wife and future kids?
I mean, like a little bit. I mean, because my parents are divorced, so I've always like when I was younger, I had a big fear of being like alone when I grow up.
Mm.
And I think as I've gotten like older, I think I'm more secure in myself. Like it's okay to be alone. However, I would like to marry someone, and I would like to have kids. I think that would be.
How many kids?
I want to have. Okay, so that depends on my job. I'm being 100% honest.
Or if you were comfortable.
If I'm comfortable and can support myself and well enough to I can give them as much as I can give them, because I don't want to have like 7 kids and then like not be able to send them to college or support them and like give them like what I want them to succeed with.
Yeah.
Like that, like I want to support my children the best way, the way I'm supported as like my parents. Like they gave me everything I needed and wanted, and
Yeah.
so I want to give them everything I can give. So ideal world would be 4. It'd be 2 girls, 2 guys. My mom is one of 4, and I love it because I love like the extended family that I grew up into.
Yeah.
Because like I have 3 different like family. I have 3 different cousin families, and like growing up as a kid, that was so much. We always went to the Cape House where my grandmother lives, and like every summer there'd be like all 4 families living in the house with like their kids, and like us going like on the boat and like the family boat, and like we'd all go there, and then we'd all come off. And then we'd all just like hang out and like play ladder ball and like make barbecues, and like I love that.
That's
Like
awesome.
that is like my sense of family. Is like
Yeah.
we all just hang out, we like play football, we go to the beach, we come back, and then we just like enjoy each other's company. Like that's so that I want to give that to my kids if I can.
Yeah.
However, I also want to make sure that like I can give them enough to be able to succeed past obviously when they're younger.
Yeah.
So,
I'll put in my 2 cents for this conversation on that topic.
yeah, please do.
I also want 4 kids, 2
Really?
guys, 2 girls.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm one of 4. I have 3 brothers, so I'm one of
Yes.
4 boys. And on the topic of like having enough resources to support them, I mean, I agree. What's interesting is that for my parents raising us, growing up, my parents didn't, make a lot of money. We were a low income family for, a long time. And my parents had just such a like radical faith that God would provide, and that and there were definitely times where I was like, when I started to more gain consciousness of like money and its reality, like in middle school, let's say, I would, and even into high school, there would be some things I was like frustrated at my parents about, because like there were certain things that I couldn't do or experience because we didn't have the resources to do so.
Yeah.
But looking back, like I'm so grateful because when I think about like really young, when I wasn't aware of those things, like the thought never crossed my mind that where I felt like I was like limited in any sort of way, and I really wasn't even in middle school and high school. Like me and our family always says like we've always been so rich in love that
Mm-hmm.
the anything else, the materials didn't matter, which I know you think it doesn't matter either. But just even having the resources to support, like, even I think back and I'm like, how did we get by in these situations or in these times? But we thank
No,
God for
yeah,
all those things, and
as you should.
just like I said, like just an abundance of love that carried us through.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
my two
I
cents.
mean, I've always been exposed to Lloyd, who's grown up in a very low income family as a single child,
Yeah,
and it's like that's where kind of this like want and desire is because he obviously grew up very loved and
yeah,
supported, and he worked his ass off to get where he is. You know, he's a full ride to Brown, which is unbelievable.
hmm
But like I just want like my children to be able to not have to work as hard.
yeah, and that's
It's like
very
separate.
honorable. Yeah,
Not that there's anything wrong, but it would that would be the goal. I don't know.
I
I
mean
hope so.
that's the goal for me too.
One day.
Yeah, one day. Um, I always like to um end with some sort of conversation regarding faith, and I just talked a little bit about
Mm,
the
please
faith of
do.
my family, and I want to note that you um, have had a lot of thoughts and questions recently about faith and spirituality. Um, when or where did those thoughts like stem from,
Um.
or how?
So my family, like extended family, like my grandparents on both sides are very religious. My grandmother, I think, goes to church every day. I think she's been going to church every day since she was 20. Um, and my grandmother used to be very religious, but has recently drifted away from the church a little bit. I think it's her husband died, and then also a lot of her family moved away. And I think she just like lost a lot of like the family connections built around it,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think she's disassociated a little bit. Because there's also like moments where we're Catholic, and like some things the Catholic Church has done has not been wonderful, and like my brother is bi, my cousin is pansexual and gender fluid. Like there's just moments where you're like, okay, maybe we shouldn't persecute these people, you know. So like, yeah, that's not like on religion. That's on organized religion a little bit, which is a separate story, which I have a different thought on. However, I would say like I've always grown up. Like I grew up until my parents divorced, going to church every Sunday, and so that was interesting because at 10 I stopped going, but like up until 10 I went, and I have an interesting like I don't know 100% how much I believe in everything. However, I think that there's just moments in my life where I'm like, this cannot not have happened without some sense of organization and some sense of divine. Like, there has to be something else there because I'm way too blessed as an individual, and as my family has been way too blessed for there not to be something that's wonderful and one like God, and like there's no way, in my opinion. And every time I go to church or I sit there, I feel like like I feel something. Like there is some sense of me that like does feel like it belongs, and like in a weird way, I would say like I read a little bit more through philosophy of like a couple of religious writings because I'd read St. Augustine. And we had to read about like his confessions, and one of them like I read it, and like there's one part that kind of stuck out to me a little bit, which was like the restless heart. We barely briefly touched on it,
Yeah.
but I went to church last weekend for the first time in probably like since April of last year, and or like this year, sorry, April, and I could like feel like there's something else there,
Yeah.
and I like kind of like thought about it in the same like terms of St. Augustine. He discussed it as like a restless heart,
Yeah.
and like that was a weird feeling because like you could just almost feel like there's got to be something else because like I just can't imagine there's not. But there's doubts of like, why am I blessed and someone else isn't? Like,
Right.
why is someone born into a family that has no opportunities out and is destined like why does like stillbirths happen, like things like that,
Right.
where you're
Right.
like, obviously you can see the scientific notion behind it, and I believe 100% in the scientific notions. That's not like questions like how does that fit into religion, but I would say I've always just like thought about it and believed there's been something out there. And I think being at BC, I really liked it because I can see there's some good that isn't everyone that comes to BC, and like the people I've connected with at BC are just genuinely nice people, and I think that there's got to be some reason that they've come into my life, and like some reason that like people have got into my life to teach me something or to grow in some way. And I think that like there has to be some then, because I'm not like I'm fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but like there's no way I could have orchestrated all this without any help.
I would agree.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I don't obviously have the same strong faith as you. I think that's a blessing.
Yeah. I always say that we're all on a journey, and I can see that like you are feeling and experiencing that pull towards God, knowing that like I was just talking with my friend Marco over the weekend, and he is in a similar position where like he says he believes in God. It's just more of like having to pursue like what faith really means to him and what it looks like action wise, like in practice.
That's a good point.
But he says like undeniably he believes in God because first and foremost that like everything that has happened in his life up to like being here at BC, like there's no other explanation than God working like for his plan. And I think that's a really good way to look at it and kind of have a starting point of like there is someone who is like who loves me, someone who wants the best for me, and is like awaiting for me into like to enter into their love. And then from there, it's more of just like on your own, kind of examining. Um, I'd say in the Christian faith, it's starting like with who Jesus was and what his mission was, and then it's growth from there. But I think definitely like from what you're saying and what you've reflected on and experienced, it seems like um, it seems like you're there in terms of like believing that God exists, believing that God cares for you enough to provide you with these blessings. I think the questions of like you said about how where you are in terms of let's say blessings and how like the position you're in versus others who are less privileged. Um, those are great questions to have. I have the same questions as well. But I would encourage you that like God is inviting you into his love and to seek him as he is seeking you.
It's interesting. Always makes me interested.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because it is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's the most interesting thing ever.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. I don't have it very high on my priorities, which it probably should be.
I mean it's I think it's uh, in the least unbiased way possible should be the greatest priority because like it comes back to like what are we doing here, like what are we living for.
I think the hardest part is like belief is something you can't tangibly see, and so to put that above things that are tangible is hard to do.
It is hard
like
to do.
You can like it's weird because like you can see your relationship with people and like how you can affect others. And that's something where you're like, oh, I can see that, and like there are certain moral codes you develop. But to put faith into all of that, which it should be because it is based around all that, is just another aspect. But it's hard to almost always keep in the forefront.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I had a thought and then it slipped out of my mind. Can't remember what it was. Finals brain.
Finals brain indeed. And then the last thing I do
Mm-hmm.
is pray for my guest.
Really?
I do that.
I've
at
never
the
gotten
very
this
end.
far in
You
the
never
video.
got
I'm
this
not
far.
gonna lie.
And it'll be very easy because we've had a very fruitful conversation thus far. And I just want to pray for you. And I think prayer is simply conversation with God. So I think God always listens to. I know God always listens to all our prayers, and I just want to lift up a prayer for you. Is that all right?
Of course.
All right. Allow me to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time. I thank you for just Cole in my life and the friendship that you have blessed us with, that you brought us here together at BC in different circumstances and different paths, but you have led us here, and we are both, finding joy in life here, finding purpose, and I just thank you so much for the way that Cole has been a friend to me, the way he has showed just such a genuine care and interest and love for me and my life and what I'm up to, and I'm just so grateful to have a friend in him. Cole shared a lot, and we had an awesome conversation. I pray for Cole that for right now, as we finish our finals, that we both have one more, that we'd finish strong and be able to have a restful break at home. I pray for rest and for health and for Cole in general, that um, that he would be able to continue exposure therapy well for his allergies, and that there'd be no hiccups there. I pray that this semester has been so busy for him in a lot of good ways, but also ways that compromise his health and the ways that he hasn't been able to sleep super well or work out as much. But I pray that you would rejuvenate those parts of his health. He'd be able to prioritize those things as well as all the wonderful other things that he's doing. I pray for him in his relationships. God, I thank you for the conviction that he had to prioritize just good people in his life and to work on those relationships. I pray that he would continue to seek good people and to build those meaningful relationships, because that's so important to be able to experience and know what that love is like. And I pray just for all that he's doing and all the goals that he has, God, that Cole is so ambitious. I just pray that in all of those ambitions that he would find true purpose, and that he would be able to keep that in perspective with all the other things he's thinking about and reflecting on, including faith and what that means, what it means to believe in a God, what it means to explore explore the good news, which is that God, that you sent yourself, you sent your Son, yourself in human form to bear our sins and to wash away our shame, so that we, God, that if we might believe that you have resurrected and that are our Savior, that we could experience eternity with you. God, I just pray that as Cole thinks about all these things, that God, that he would be able to just continue to grow and continue to be passionate and wanting to explore faith, but also all the other sides, including creativity, like we had mentioned, that all these aesthetic reels that he's watching, God, that he would be able to put that into use and apply it as he continues to be creative. And just help him just continue to become a more well-rounded person, and just continue to be filled with joy, be filled with passion, and continue to just be Cole, the awesome person he already is. Lord, we thank you for this time. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you.
That wraps up episode 16 of SehoPod. Any final remarks, Cole?
I felt the love. Thank you.
That has been episode 16. Probably next episode might be during winter break with another brother who has not been on the podcast. But until then, we'll finish final strong. And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.